Morning Edition. Julian Sador, Andy Satowski, Jason Harper, all here. And gang, talking about something really exciting because for the first time since I think we've all been on the show, we're talking about postseason ball.
Yes.
With the Hornets playing game tonight against the Heat. The Hive is alive. We don't got a lot of time to talk about it, but guys, are you excited?
I am so excited. This is fun. I've never lived in a city with a professional basketball team before, and now we are a professional basketball team. So pack the Hive tonight, 7:30, taking on the Heat. It's going to be a good time. So then we go into game 2, which we'll find out who we play, and then potentially playoff basketball.
That's how it works.
We're a sports town. We got Charlotte FC, Panthers rocking and rolling. Now it's basketball time.
Okay, real quick, I think it's unanimous. Hornets win,
Hornets,
right?
Hornets win, move on.
Yeah.
So you know what? We're not even spending a lot of time talking about it because we're going to be able to talk about this on Thursday when we record our next episode because the Hornets going to win tonight against the Heat. Coming up, though, this is why we don't have a lot of time. We're talking about something big in the area.
Yes.
A redevelopment of I-77, reimagined. We have a special guest joining us right after the break. You're watching Morning Edition. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back in, everyone. We have a special guest this time around. Shannon Binns is the founder of Sustain Charlotte. And Shannon, we had you on earlier today. There's a lot. We know how fast Charlotte is growing as a city, right? Hundreds are coming every single day. How do you adapt to the growth, not be overwhelmed? Traffic is just ridiculous here. But there are ways to do it better. NCDOT on I-77 has said, hey, let's make more toll lanes to go from uptown all the way down to the South Carolina state line. You guys have come along. Everyone's been vocal, frustrations about more concrete, splitting up neighborhoods. So I want to talk to you about Sustain Charlotte, how you are trying to reimagine this corridor, and how do we move hundreds of thousands of people in and out of Charlotte every day, but make it a community? How do we do that?
Well, we have to move people more efficiently, right? That's the key, is moving people, not just cars. Cars are actually the least efficient way to move people because they require the most amount of space for any mode, right? And you can just simply picture how many people will fit on a bus and how many cars would fit into that same space that the bus takes, right? So you could have 50 people on a bus, and you might fit 1 or 2 cars or 1 or 2 people in their cars in that same amount of road space. So that's why you go to any great city in the world, they have transit, they have trains, they have buses. It's not because there's anything special about those cities. They just realize you cannot move everybody in a car when you have a lot of people in your city because it's just too inefficient. So as we grow, we have to kind of grow out of this sort of small town mentality where, if you're a small city, it's fine for people to get around by cars. But when you hit the big leagues, like we're in now, you have to move people more efficiently. It's the only way that you can continue to grow without people stuck in traffic.
And we're looking at all of these different images and proposals because there has been such pushback from a lot of communities and a lot of interest. Why? Because people drive I-77 every single day. There's neighborhoods that are at stake. There's whole communities that really are taking issue with this. So we've asked the community to submit your designs, right? Like, what would you want to see? We had a kid, make a slide with a blueberry field, and that's our preference.
I like that.
We want that, but not super realistic. So what is realistic from getting all of these designs? And if someone said, hey, I submitted that, what's the chance of that actually being taken into account?
Yeah, well, so I think, as far as the blueberry fields, right, there was a preschool, there was some 5-year-olds that actually got involved, and they were asked by their teacher to draw their favorite things, what they'd like to see more of in their city and in their neighborhood. And they said things like parks and swings. Someone said a blueberry field. But what was striking is that whether you were a 5-year-old or you were a 50-year-old, whether you were, a student or you were a professional, these designs all had basically the same things in common. People wanted more places to play and meet other people, right? And that's just a basic human desire. Like, we want to be with other people, right? We don't want to be stuck in our cars by ourselves, right? That's how we grew this city, so that many of us are forced into that, but that's not our nature as human, right? We want to be with other people. We want to have fun. We want to play. We want to be outside, right? We want to walk. That's what humans are made to do. Like, there's an expression that, birds fly, fish swim, and people walk. It's our nature. But in America, especially in Sunbelt cities like Charlotte, we have built our cities where walking is very difficult. right? Even though it's our nature as humans to do. So across all of these designs, you see lots of green space. And these are not just parks to look at. These are parks to use for recreation, for connection, for activities, for fun, for live music, all of these things. So that's what was really striking to me is that independently, all of these people, no matter how young or how professional, came up with basically the same ideas. It just looks a little different.
Shannon, I want to ask you because for those who aren't familiar with the history, right? When we talk about 277 and 77, what they did to the historically black neighborhoods completely separated them, made it hard to do the things you're talking about, walk around, enjoy, and be connected to one another.
Right.
If plans go forward the way they are now, further dividing Charlotte's neighborhoods, further taking away that walkability that you were just talking about, how detrimental would that be?
Well, it's incredibly detrimental. I mean, those neighborhoods already have suffered and continue to suffer for generations, really, right? So as you said, where we decided to put the state decided to put 77 really did separate our West Charlotte neighborhoods from downtown. And it wasn't just 77, it was 277, right? It was 85, it was 74. We didn't build these roads in Charlotte's wealthier, frankly, whiter neighborhoods. We built them in lower income color because they didn't have the power to stop them back in the 19. And so the fact that we're considering repeating that same thinking and that we had in the 1960s before the civil rights era is really just shocking. What we need to be doing and cities across America are doing is repairing what was broken in these roads, right? They're reconnecting the street grids that used to exist. You used to be able to walk between uptown and these neighborhoods, and neighbors could walk to their neighbors' houses. And once 77 was built, that wasn't possible anymore. These became literal barriers between neighbors. Where I talked to a guy who lived in one of these neighborhoods growing up. He had to change he was 10 years old at the time. He could no longer play with the same 10-year-olds because he couldn't get to their house anymore.
Oh,
He had to find all new friends that he could actually go play with because his neighborhood was so divided by 77. So, repairing and reconnecting is what other cities are doing, and that's what we're asking our elected leaders to do here in Charlotte. And the wonderful thing about that is it's not just good for those neighbors. It's going to make our city more vibrant, more fun for everyone who comes to this part of our city. And it's a great from an economic development standpoint as well. And I think that is not highlighted enough either.
I want to pull up one vision. Julian, if you can pull up that one image that was submitted. A lot of images were submitted, by the way, but there's a group, Eric and Megan Orozco, they're local urban planners. You and I have talked about, actually, can you go to, let's see, we've got that one right there.
Okay.
So let's look at this one. And I want you to help me pick this apart a little bit, Shannon, because you and I were doing some talking. NCDOT, they don't really spend a lot of time with urban planners. Let's think outside the box. How can we really pull apart I-77? You said something this morning that made my head almost blow up. As we look at this image, there's actually a creek under I-77?
There is, Irwin Creek. It's actually one of the longest creeks in Mecklenburg County. It goes well down into South Carolina as well. It turns into, the original name of Irwin Creek was Sugar Creek. It was actually Big Sugar Creek. What we call Little Sugar Creek was Little Sugar Creek because it's smaller than the actual Sugar Creek, which was, both of them were named after the original Native American tribe. Suga was mispronounced as sugar by English first. And so Sugar Creek is now called Irwin Creek because it was named after a landowner whose last name was Irwin.
Okay.
But anyway, as you follow Irwin Creek it's actually clear up in North Charlotte. It goes a lot further north than what we're used to seeing west of Uptown.
Yeah.
Starts in North Charlotte, goes all the way through West Charlotte, and kind of curves back towards Pineville. Goes through Pineville, goes down to Indian Land and beyond.
Oh, my
And
man.
it changed its name, so it's Irwin Creek through all of Charlotte, and then as it gets down into South Carolina, it becomes Sugar Creek again. But it's all the same creek, and it all flows into the Catawba River.
And so as we're going back and forth between two different images here. This one here is the creek on the left, right? That's the one that would be basically uncovered.
Right.
to flow freely. You got parks all around I-77. This is another image that a guy named Matt Weschler, who gave you from Land Design.
Yep.
This is what they're doing in Austin. And so
Yeah.
you basically bury I-77, right? It's underground, and then you put parks and greenways on top of it where we can come together. Is it realistic when we look at these?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can see it's possible. Other cities have done this all over the country. Austin, Texas has a plan in place to actually add 3 of these freeway caps to reconnect East Austin to downtown Austin. They hope to start construction, I think, in 2029. And so what you see in these visions are at least 2 caps. So I think both of these envision 2 separate caps. 77 on the west side of Charlotte kind of goes over some roads and under some roads. And so some parts of it are going to be easier to cap than others. And so as you see, like in this vision here, a part of it is still above ground and some of it is put below ground.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of flipping things. So when we built these freeways through our city, we built them all above ground. And what that did was that completely disconnected existing streets. That's why we have in so many neighborhoods dead-end streets that dead end into the banks along these highways, right? So if we put them underground, we can reconnect all of these neighborhoods and free up all this land, right? So think of the land that 77 occupies, right? It's anywhere between 6 and 8 lanes plus ramps for 11 miles through our city, just south 77.
Yeah.
That's an incredible amount of valuable land that we can do so many other things with if we put the road underground.
And if we did that, because we're talking about adding toll lanes, right, to help get more cars moving through, would we be able to just expand lanes while we're under there too? If what we have and just putting it underground, if it's not enough above ground, how would it be enough below ground?
So yes, absolutely. They could add toll lanes
Okay.
if they put it underground. They would just make a wider
Mm-hmm.
tunnel,
Right.
But we don't actually think, again, that's going to solve the problem. As I mentioned earlier, the way cities move more people is through more efficient means, which means mass transit.
A light rail under there?
It could be, or
Okay.
just dedicated bus lanes, right? Like we could take the existing 77.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's between 6 and 8 lanes, where you are. We could take one, and many cities have done what I'm about to suggest here. Take 1 lane in each direction and just have it be only for high occupancy bus lanes, carpools, right?
Like what was supposed to happen on Independence.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so if we did that, which we could do for relatively no money, right? We'd have to probably buy some more buses. We'd have to obviously hire some more drivers. But if we ran a bus on 77 South, right, from the suburbs into uptown Charlotte at rush hour, and we had that bus coming every 10 to 15 minutes, and it had its own lane on 77,
Yeah.
people could fly through to get to uptown without having to sit in traffic. And we can literally do that tomorrow.
I mean, as somebody who comes from the DC metro area where we
I
were
wanted your
well,
input. 'Cause
yeah,
you notice-
chime in.
well, as Shannon's talking about it, and I know it might be a concept foreign to some people who haven't grown up in a metro area, but so many people leave their cars at home. They only take them out on the weekends if they need to. But growing up in the area, I lived 35, 40 minutes outside of the city. But I never had any trouble getting into the city. You have more trouble getting in your car trying to get into Washington, D.C. You just hop on the metro, and then you go in there, and then you walk or take public transit everywhere. You can get to ball games. You can get to museums. And so we talk about places like the epicenter being dead, and like, how do we bring people back into Uptown? Well, if there was a accessible way where you didn't have to sit in the headache of traffic on 77
And then
or
look
Independence.
and look and pay for parking. when
Look
you
and
get
pay for
there.
right.
Exactly.
And it forces you to talk with people. Jason, we talk about it all the time. Our commute in, you don't talk to anybody. You get in your car, you drive into
That's
work,
it.
and you're back home. You don't get
Now,
a chance to
some
meet your
people,
neighbors.
some people like that. But as
Sure.
we talked about, there's just this negative stigma, especially in the South, about public transit. Let's just put it out there, Shannon. Most people in the South think that public transit is going to bring
crime
to
Cause
their
big space.
neighborhood, and they want to keep it segregated. I'm not saying a white-black thing. I'm not saying that, but
Well,
that has to be
I
realistic.
mean, I will say it. You said
Okay.
most people think that. I would say a lot of, not all, but some white people think it's going to bring people of color into their neighborhood, and that's an unfortunate reality in the South. We know it's not true. it's a stereotype that isn't true, that we have to overcome here. Now, I will say those same people who fear buses coming into their neighborhoods and bringing people who are going to commit crimes don't have the same fears generally, at least in Charlotte anymore, about trains because
Huh.
of the Blue Line, right? The Blue Line has made light rail incredibly attractive to everyone that lives in our area. Essentially, everybody wants light rail in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're white or they're black or they're brown. I mean, it's a universal desire. We see this all the time. We saw it last during the sales tax campaign, right? Those who voted for the sales tax voted for it because light rail either already came to their neighborhood or would come to their neighborhood with that sales tax. If light rail was not coming to their neighborhood, they largely voted against it. So at the end of the day, it came down to, am I going to get light rail? And if so, I will pay more for that. If I'm not getting light rail, I won't. So rail doesn't have the same stigma in Charlotte as the bus does. But part of that is that we have invested and made the train that we have very efficient, right? It's fast, it's reliable. We have not made the same investment in our bus system. So buses are still much less convenient. But if we make them more convenient, which we could do, right, then they would be more attractive. But right now, when the average trip on a CATS bus takes an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and you could often do that distance in a car in 20, 30 minutes. You know, if you have the means to own a car and operate a car, you're going to drive.
Right.
Shannon, you know what? We had other things scheduled. Unless there's an objection from the group, I say we continue this on the other side of this break. I
I think
also
so
want to
too.
say, Shannon, thank you for having the courage to say the things that some people are scared to say.
don't wanna say
That
out
means a
loud.
lot. So you know what? We're gonna have more from Shannon on the other side of this break. You're watching Morning Edition, and we will be right back.
All right, we are back here with Shannon Binns, the founder of Sustain Charlotte. We're talking about possible reimagination of I-77. How do we get people in and out of our city? You just spent some time in France. You've talked about Copenhagen, some of these European towns, and I'm like, why does Europe have it figured out? Why are we struggling here in America? And one of the things you said is, you know, these foreign cities, they built them originally to bring people into uptown. Charlotte has a 1 square mile with a perfect grid. Outside of that, we're screwed. I mean, you didn't say that. I know these are my own words, but I'm just saying.
It's a little chaotic.
But it
outside
is.
of that.
That's how it is. I want to bring up, if you can bring up the website, Julian.
Yeah,
Dallas,
gotcha.
when I asked you, what is a city near us that we can look at and go, they've done it. How do we copy some of that? What are we looking at here in Dallas?
So this is Clyde Warren Park. So in Dallas, over a decade ago now, they capped a portion of their urban freeway. And now it's a park called in Clyde Warren Park. That is very attractive and very, very used and very
So that's
loved.
over an interstate?
That's over an interstate.
Wow.
What used to be there?
A portion of their interstate.
Okay.
Right?
That's wild.
Is it not more expensive to put a park over and something that's there? Like I think a lot of people are going, I like it. How do we do it? It sounds 10 times more expensive than just adding a couple more lanes.
Well, I think it's important to keep in mind that the price tag for these toll lanes we're talking about at the time of construction is $4.2 billion.
Okay.
These toll lanes would be the most expensive infrastructure project in North Carolina history. In fact, they're so expensive, the state can't actually afford them. And that's why the only way they can get built is if we essentially allow a private company to build them and charge whatever tolls they want to charge, right? So the question is, how do we want to spend $4 billion, right? Do we want to spend $4 billion doubling down on the same type of transportation system that got us into the current problem? Or do we want to invest that money into something different that we know is going to make our community more connected and help people get around in ways other than having to get in a car?
So Shannon, you're saying this will actually fix the problem instead of putting a Band-Aid on it. Let's actually address the root of the problem here, which is the fact that we've taken away the walkability, the connectability of Uptown. This would solve the problem, and I think that was a big question that everybody has. That Jason kind of brought up. Is there? It sounds great, but the money problem. You're saying the money's there. It's just how we just choose to spend it.
So
right?
I think right now the portions of 77 that we're talking about capping, they've done here in Dallas. We're not talking about capping the entire 11 miles.
Okay.
Okay.
Right? So NCDOT wants to add 4 toll lanes, 2 in each direction, the entire 11-mile stretch from the South Carolina border to the junction with 277, the Berkshire.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the part that we're talking about capping is just near Uptown, right? Where it's most constrained, as they say. You have the least amount of space to widen it without really negatively harming existing neighborhoods. So that's one important thing. And they're actually talking in that section where we're talking about putting it below ground. They're actually planning to elevate it, right? So elevating a freeway is incredibly expensive. And it certainly is not less expensive than putting it underground,
Okay.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, yes, it's this idea that it's more expensive. It's not true. One, it hasn't been studied.
Mhm.
DOT dismissed it without actually doing a feasibility
Hmm.
analysis. But we know that building underground is no more expensive than elevating. If you think about it, when you elevate, you have to build a lot of infrastructure to support
Yeah. The
you
weight
know,
of
4 lanes of concrete
Yeah.
carrying heavy traffic, right?
Mm.
So it's a major construction project to elevate a highway. So it can just as easily be put underground.
and then you've got the vertical space to do.
You've got
Right.
the at the surface. Now you have land. You can do lots of other things. So you're getting a lot more value out of that same space, right?
Bring in more business.
And if you look at some of
Yeah.
these designs adjacent to, so right now, 77, along 77, we don't have much development because nobody wants to live next to a highway,
Right.
right? When you put the highway underground, now those edges, as they're called, become very attractive because people love to live next to parks,
Yeah.
right? So if 77 becomes a park in these locations, now that land that before no one was interested in because it was right next to a highway,
Mm-hmm.
now it's incredibly attractive land that you can build on top of, right next to the cap. You can see a lot of these buildings in this image don't exist today,
Right.
right? These mid-rise buildings you see. So you open up land for development. This can be housing. This can be ground floor businesses, right? It can be lots of things that actually serve the community, give them places to go.
That's fantastic. So really quickly here. So what comes next?
Yeah, so we're making sure that all of these designs get in front of our elected officials, both at the city and the state level, who can actually redirect NCDOT, do something other than widen this road, elevate it.
Because it's not like you're going to walk up to NCDOT and go, here's our 20 ideas.
Yeah.
I need you to pick one.
Right.
Let's start this. I mean, in our minds, we think it's that easy, but you're going to have a lot of pushback from developers and people who are money hungry that want to proceed. And so this is going to have to come from the legal or the I guess some lawmakers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's important to keep in mind too, NCDOT, they're not an urban planning agency. They're not a transit agency, right? NCDOT largely builds and maintains highways,
Okay.
right, and other large roads in our state. So I think part of the challenge is we're asking DOT to do things that they're not really specialized in, right? That's why we need to what we're asking them to do is actually, hire an independent consultant who can come back to them with other ways of relieving traffic on 77 beyond toll lanes. So it's capping and instead of toll lanes, adding efficient, reliable mass transit and reconnecting roads that no longer connect because of 70. So it's a multitude of things that have to happen to solve congestion in the long term. It's not just one thing. And the good news is, again, we know what we need to do. We know what's working in other cities. We just have to
Let's try it.
do
Yeah.
the same thing here that's working in other places.
Well, I'm glad you opened the door for ideas. Let's hope some, or at least one great
Right.
idea
Okay.
gets through. So, Shannon, thank you for what you're doing with Sustain. Thanks for your time on here. This is just the beginning of a long conversation. We appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for Morning Edition. We will catch you guys next time. As always, you can catch us on the app and watch us on air Monday through Friday, 4 to 10 a.m.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.